Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so next pro speaker.
2 minutes? Come on.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Alright, so today Sam and I are presenting the reason the United States ought to provide a universal basic income. So this topic is very important today and could affect yourselves and your families. First, it is important to know what the universal basic income is. So the universal basic income is basically guaranteed money to protect all citizens of the United States from having no income. So the three reasons that I will present to you of why we should support the universal basic income are because, one, poverty in the United States will be eliminated. Two, eventually automation will take over more jobs of humans. And three, it is important for all United States citizens to have a level of financial security. So the United States ought to provide a universal basic income. So first, poverty will be eliminated in the United States with the use of a universal basic income. In the article, less than 3% of GDP could end U.S. poverty, new research shows, published by States News Service in 2018 explains. The research of Carl Wiederquist, who is an American political philosopher and economist at Georgetown University, found that some 43.1 million people, including 14.5 million children, would benefit from this increased income, reducing the poverty rate from 13.5% of the population to 0%. So we have 43.1 million Americans who would be taken out of poverty and given a chance to develop a better life for themselves and their families. Greater opportunity would be given to the 14.5 million children living in poverty. These children would be able to actually live their dream and go to college and be able to have a brighter future ahead of them. In the writing, Free Cash for Everyone, Stockton, California's mayor plans to see if it works, published by CNN in 2017, expresses how the universal basic income in its purest form will allow every American to receive a basic income of $10,000 per year. So every citizen in the United States of adult age 18 would receive this $10,000 per year. And this would help students balance a job and go to school with that extra money. And then with today's expenses to live, the $10,000 per year would grant everyone the ability to support themselves with the basic needs of life. So next we have automation, which will take jobs of humans. So Richard Branson, who has earned $5.1 billion through his expertise in business, explains in Universal Basic Income is Coming, published by CNN in February of 2018, that proponents of the plan say the aim is to give workers greater financial security as concerns rise about machines taking away jobs, in addition to alleviating income inequality. So a very important part of this and why it must be enforced is because technology is fast developing in our world, and it's leading to robots replacing humans in the workforce. So there will be a time where many United States workers find themselves without a job and in search of a new career. A statistic published from Sunday Business in 2017 by Colin Murphy in the article, Could Giving Citizens a Free Basic Income Work Here?, states a report last year by City and Oxford University estimates that 57% of jobs across the Organization for Economics, Cooperation and Development were at risk from automation. So the World Economic Forum recently estimated that would take over 5 million jobs by 2020. So that's only 2 years away. So the universal basic income is a way to make sure that each of our citizens of the United States has enough money to provide themselves with the basic needs of life through the transitioning of machines replacing human work. Lastly, it is very important for all Americans to have a sense of financial stability. So a real-life example of this is in the writing Free Cash for Everyone, Stockton, California's mayor plans to see if it works, published by CNN in 2017. So in this article, it explains Michael Tubbs, who is Stockton, California's mayor, and it's about his childhood. So he states, if we had $300 a month, life would be less stressful, or we could move into another neighborhood. Maybe she would have been able to go back to school and get her BA or pursue a passion. So this extra money would have allowed Michael Tubbs' mother the opportunity to get a better education and provide a more enjoyable life for Michael. In the National Democratic Alliance article, NDA considers universal basic income for all citizens, published in 2017 by New Delhi, clarifies that the universal basic income aims to provide a safety net for all citizens and remove inefficient benefit systems currently in place. So it is very likely that at least one of your family members here possibly is on welfare, as is my aunt. And my grandma still works today at the age of 78 to help my aunt support her child and pay her rent each month. So it's clear that a universal basic income to all Americans will alleviate stress so many Americans have to provide the basic necessities for their families. So the three more important factors of why the universal basic income is needed in the United States is because poverty would be eliminated, technology and automation are evolving, leading to humans being replaced by machines, and it is important that each American have a level of financial stability.
Just whenever. As Nick previously mentioned, the installation of a universal basic income program, although a hopeful idea, is not a viable option for the decrease or even eradication of poverty, because it is very expensive, does not actually increase the benefits of the poor, it decreases motivation to strive for more than the bare minimum, and ultimately increases taxes. I would like to delve further into the topic of motivation. The book Psychology of Motivation, edited by Lois V. Brown and published in 2007, establishes that there are such things referred to as basic motivated needs, which include hunger, thirst, and sexual desire. Now, if the institution of a UBI were to actually take place in order to help people get beyond the poverty line, then at least two of these basic needs would be met: thirst and hunger. The problem with this is that if the basic motivated needs of people are met through UBI, then there is really no need to strive for more than the bare minimum, because striving for more may seem too difficult or even impossible. To put this into perspective, let's take this class into consideration. Now, for many of us, I would assume that food and drink are things we receive on a daily basis. So our basic motivated needs as students shift more towards getting good grades, or at least passing grades, in order to get our degrees. So ask yourselves this: if the lowest grade you could get in this class was a C, which is passing, regardless of whether or not you actually ever did a speech, just as long as you showed up to class, would you ever come to do one? Now, I'm sure a few of you might, to try and earn an A, but what if you had two midterms on the same day? Would you bother to do the speech? Probably not, because the idea of doing your work and still passing has been authenticated, which, according to the article Toward a Positive Psychology of Academic Motivation, published in 2001 and written by Frank Parejas, states that authenticity is the belief that one's achievements and attainments are deserved. This is when the thoughts of, well, if he or she didn't have to do a speech, then why should I? I deserve a day off. And then we lose the feeling of inauthenticity, which is basically the feeling of not being good enough or not deserving. But this feeling is sometimes necessary, because it's what pushes us forward and makes us decide to continue onward instead of settling for what is easy. It is this feeling which has allowed us to evolve as a society and as a nation. Now, straying off from the topic of motivation, I would like to talk to you about something else that would potentially increase other than taxes. I am referring to the possible increase of inflation. To refresh your minds, inflation is when food, rent, clothes, and just about anything else rises in price in a certain area or even country. According to the article Supply Chain Bilateral Coordination with Option Contracts under Inflation Scenarios, written in 2015 by Wan and Chen, over the past few years, food prices climbed to previously unknown heights and non-food prices have gone dramatically up around the world. Although inflation is already a current worldwide issue, the establishment of UBI would only worsen the situation, because if everyone received a certain amount of money, regardless of their job, then companies and landowners would look to take more money by raising prices on what they sell and pocket as much of that government money as possible. Consequently, the poor, those who were to benefit from the UBI, would fall into the same cycle of not being able to buy everything they need. Lastly, the reason why the UBI is not an actual viable option is because no one who has proposed the idea in recent years has been able to actually come up with a plan to execute the idea. The article, A Disarmingly Simple Idea, Practical Bottlenecks in the Implementation of a Universal Basic Income, published in 2012, makes the argument that UBI will remain hypothetical due to 3 reasons. The first being, there must be a nationwide list of all eligible candidates that must be set up. The second being, there must be an effective way to distribute all the money according to all those who receive it. The third being, creating an effective oversight mechanism that prevents client monitoring. Ultimately, without all of the 3 of these in place, the UBI won't be steady. Hence, the only real solution is to do away with the idea of a UBI and provide other options which offer a chance of a financially steady life. For example, the article Building the Pipeline from Classroom to Career, written by Megan McPhail in January 2018, talks about how in South Carolina, a school district made a pact with a construction company in which they agreed to offer students the option of learning skills in high school, which could later help them get a job in construction and earn a decent income. Considering that the employment of construction workers is estimated to grow 13% in the next decade, many Americans could use these sorts of trade schools as a way to make a good amount of money without having to completely get into schools, because oftentimes the excuse is that, I dropped out of school because I didn't have the brains. Well, if there's jobs, trade schools are established, more widely accepted, then there's the chance of people going into these trade schools where they actually have a chance of making a decent living rather than just dropping out and getting minimum wage jobs. Consequently, the U.S. should focus more on offering programs like this and having people earn their own money rather than just simply handing them out.
Okay, rebuttal.
Okay, so you guys mentioned how this basically helps you get to college easier, right? It paves the path to college. Well, I have an example myself. So I'm a first generation student, and there's no UBI in place. But there was this program back in San Jose called Breakthrough Silicon Valley, which basically I applied to it when I was in 6th grade, and it allowed me to. I went to summer school basically to prepare for the next years, the upcoming years, and that allowed me to get into a private school, apply to and get in with a scholarship, and then they helped me through the whole college process, where I was able to finally get into Cal Poly, and both my parents are immigrants, so I really had no support other than the fact of that program. So rather than establish